Good evening. Welcome to the May 23rd Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Adler.
Here.
Mr. Floyd.
Here.
Mrs. Paxton. Here. Mrs. Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mrs. Wilmeyer.
Here.
Mrs. Ross.
Here. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes for May 9th, 2016?
So moved. Second.
Are there any questions or discussion on those? Please call the roll.
Mr. Adler.
Aye.
Mrs. Floyd.
Aye.
Mrs. Paxton. Aye. Mrs. Jackson.
Aye.
Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Mrs. Wilmeyer.
Aye.
Mrs. Ross.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you. Tonight's community recognition is for Ms. Dr. Brandon Brockowitz of Unity Point Health, rather. Dr. Brockowitz recently teamed up with our district and our athletic trainers from Atletico to provide athletic physicals for all athletes for the year 2016-17. Yes, that's quite impressive. The free athletic physicals were offered to each of our high schools on Wednesday, between Wednesday, May 4th and May 18th. And we appreciate Dr. Brockowitz for working with our staff and students to help get this task completed. Dr. Brockowitz, are you with us tonight? All right, would you please come to the podium and share some information with us about the event that was held?
Sure. So first off, a big thanks to Ravonda for helping me set all that up. She's kind of been my liaison to the board and to the school district, and we've had a great working relationship for the past couple of years. And as you mentioned, we were able to do about over 200 physicals in the school districts. I think 50 the first 2 weeks, and then a nice whopping 100 students our last week, because everybody likes to wait till the last minute to get that stuff done. So it was a pleasure to be able to help out the district, get you guys, these kids in, get them seen, get some of the paperwork done and out of the way so that they can show up next year for all their sporting events and be ready to go. So yeah, we're kind of here to help out, and we've been also working with some of the concussion protocols, helping get that teed up for the district, so hopefully that'll get all worked out and through, and we're kind of here to hopefully keep things going.
Thank you, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name. I was thinking about Aaron Brockowitz.
There you go. Happens more than you think.
So it's Brockowitz.
Yeah.
Thank you, and Superintendent Karat has a token of our appreciation for you.
Thank you.
Hey, Doc, we just so appreciate the collaboration, and just wanted to show appreciation with a small token. This is, well needed in our community and our kids, our families. You've been doing it for some time, and we just wanted to say again, we appreciate and look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and Unity Point. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Announcements. Do we have any? Oh, I'm always missing something. See, I try to get these meetings moving. Awards and recognitions. Tonight we have Peoria High Bass Fishing Team, and I believe Coach Q is going to.
Yes.
All right. Did I get that right?
Present the board. While I'm talking to you real quick, would you pass this through? It's marked where our team's at, and those are the medals that we earned at the sectional. This is our bass fishing shirt right here. Bryce, would you come up here with me? My name is Jason Corchegro, so they just call me Coach Q. I've been a wrestling coach in the district for quite a long time, and a bass fishing coach also. I also teach driver's education. This is Bryson Bergeron. He's one of our fishermen that qualified for a state tournament, placing second at the Evergreen Sectional. His team caught a 6-pound bass, which put them right up there. They only caught 4. They could have caught 5. If they would have caught that 5th fish, they would have probably been sectional champions. But we qualified for the state tournament, which is held at Carlisle Lake. Carlisle Lake is a large lake. It's one of the biggest reservoirs in the state of Illinois. And it was tough on us. We were probably a little bit out of our league. And just to give you a little history about bass fishing, in our district, in 2008, the IHSA started bass fishing. I was fortunate to have a principal and an AD that said yes. It is not funded. I just told them, I don't want to miss this opportunity to go fishing. And we started a bass club at Woodruff High School in 2008, and we fished every sectional since. When Woodruff closed, we went to Peoria High, and I did the same thing. I just told them we were doing it. Please say yes. They did. I donate my time, my boat, the insurance, and all that stuff, and we just take kids fishing. We do have a club. We give them a survey. We meet in usually pride time, and we practice in our gymnasium, throwing fishing rods. We used to practice in the pool when we had one, kind of throwing reel type situation, but we do what we can. Our kids, sometimes we've had trips to the lagoon. It's been an awesome ride with the fishing thing, because not just athletes. I've had kids that never were in an athletic sport and are interested in school or did any organizations, and all of a sudden they were knocking on my door saying, I want to be on the bass fishing team. And I saw that reach out to a kid that may not have got in any organization, but then all of a sudden fishing. And who doesn't want to go fishing? So before we go, I'd like to tell you the story of this big fish. So, Bryson, how many times have you fished before?
I've fished before, but not bass fishing. I've only bass fished once before the sectionals this year.
And most of the kids that we fished against have been fishing their entire life. Okay, so we're already at odds. And as we're fishing that day, we weren't doing really good. Caught a lot of trees, and he caught one fish early. Then all of a sudden his partner says, I think I got a snag. And I looked and I said, that's not a snag, because it was going out to the deep water. And I said, get the net, and I have rules. I can't tie, I can't touch the line, and I can't touch the net. So I have to let these kids work out the situation that's about ready to happen. It was like a fire drill going on. They didn't know which way to go, grabbing nets, falling, tripping, and I'm watching this all happen. Well, as this big fish comes up, everybody's kind of, adrenaline's going, and I call it tomahawking. Tell him what you did.
Whacked it right across the head.
He racked it right across the head with the net, the wrong way. Now we have an argument between the two fishermen saying, hey, scoop it. So I'm coaching him, he scoops it up, brings it in, and now we're excited because we have this very large fish in the boat. And there's some fishermen, I see them in the room, I see one there, and it's a 6-pound bass. As they're screaming and yelling, he looks at me and he goes, is it a bass? And I went, yeah, that'd be a bass. You guys better catch the next couple, because you're going to win it all today if you do. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I appreciate all our support. I've had great principals and ADs that just said yes. And I've had some other people help out, organizations that donated stuff to us. But the people we were fishing against had $900 rod and reels. Ours were $33 from Walmart.
So, question, how many students are in your bass?
We have 15 right now that came and signed up, and all we do is meet in my pride time and do things. I bring poles to class. That 22-minute pride time where we use to connect with students, we connect by throwing rods and reels in the gymnasium.
Okay.
Try not to break anything.
Any other questions?
Not a question, well, actually a question, but that shirt has potential as a fundraiser. I think there's a market for that, and if you can find a retailer to take that, I think you can sell those at a good price and help fund your team.
All I do is ask for a few shirts for our kids to wear them at these events. You want to be noticed.
Yep.
And I'm glad we were noticed. If you saw that brochure I just sent around, there's schools from all over the state of Illinois, and they're putting a lot of, and I was so proud to be there. And be honest with you, there was probably a lot of pressure on those teams. We did well because we didn't have pressure. We were just out there having a good day in the sun fishing on a Friday. when we could have probably been in school, but we got out, they have great grades, and we went fishing.
Is that called playing hooky?
I think so, but I'm not going to complain.
I do think there's a marketing opportunity for that, and you need to trademark that visual and graphic, because I think you got something that's very merchandisable in the
Okay.
community here. Number two is, Dr. Crott, I found my post-retirement opportunity.
I need an assistant.
He needs an assistant, he said.
Dave Myers also, he loves.
I know Dave. I
I
got
was out
pictures of
there
him
on a
with
fly
fish.
ride yesterday and did pretty well, so
Yeah.
I'll help you with fly ride practice if you want. I can teach that.
Maybe you won't tomahawk the fish.
I've never tomahawked a fish.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And now, announcements.
I have one.
Ms. Jackson?
Tomorrow, Tuesday, May 24th, is our last day of school for all students, with the exception of Valeska Hinton. I guess the students are happy about that. All students except Valeska Hinton will be released 1 hour early on Tuesday. Please encourage your child to read every day this summer to avoid the summer slide. We appreciate Look, It's My Book, collaborating with our district and other partners to spread the message of the importance of reading over the summer. Look, It's My Book will be joining Dr. Karat for a school assembly at Lincoln tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to encourage students there to read daily this summer. Like our Facebook page to receive tips this summer to help your child read. So, tomorrow morning at Lincoln at 9 a.m., Dr. Karat will be talking to all of you that attend.
Thank you. Ms. Wolfmeyer?
Transitioning into fifth grade or ninth grade can be a challenge for some of our students. If you're student one or fifth grade or ninth grade this fall, we are offering camps to help them successfully manage the new experiences of middle school and high school. Visit www.peoriapublicschools.org or call 309-672-6536 for information. On our website, you can also find more information on other summer camps and programs for our students. The Compass Learning Lab sites will also be open every morning, Monday through Thursday this summer, for all age levels to stop by, get free breakfast and lunch, and participate in learning activities online. Compass sites include Harrison, Lindbergh, Hines, Lincoln, and Glen Oak.
Ms. Costick?
A reminder to parents that physicals and immunizations, dental exams, and eye exams must be completed prior to the first day of school in the fall so that your child can be ready to learn. Visit peoriapublicschools.org/enrollment for more information. Thank you.
Mr. Adler?
This Thursday, May 26th, is a day of action for equitable funding in the state of Illinois. The time for action is now, and without action in Springfield, classrooms from East St. Louis to Rockford and in between, including Peoria, are at risk. So the public is invited to join us, and parents, students, community leaders, and elected officials at South 2nd and East Capitol Avenue at noon on Thursday to support Illinois legislators as they work to bring equitable school funding solutions to Illinois. A school bus will be ready to load at Peoria Public Schools Administration Building right here, 3202 North Wisconsin Avenue at 9 a.m. For a 9:30 a.m. departure this Thursday. So the rally begins about noon and will end by 1 p.m. and the bus will return about 2:30. So to reserve a seat on the bus, please call 309-672-6744 or email info@psd150.org. And if you plan to attend the rally but are going to get there yourself, please just let us know and bring a sack lunch. So appreciate your support and your help encouraging our legislators to do the right thing, fund equitable school funding reform, and go ahead and wear your school colors to show your pride. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, do you have one announcement? No?
There's the the Lion King Junior experience.
Yeah.
All right, begins June 13th for current 4th through 9th grade students. Register your student for this summer-long morning workshop held Mondays through Thursdays with the weekend of performances to end the summer at the Civic Center. Visit lionkingpeoria.com to register and for more information.
Thank you. Mr.
Yes, ma'am. I have one that's called Find Your Career Path Camp that begins May 31st for current 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students to be held at Woodruff Career and Technical Center. This camp will introduce them to our cosmetology, hair braiding, barbering, culinary arts, auto body, construction, trades, and health occupations career pathways. The camp runs from 9 until 12:30 and includes breakfast and lunch. Visit our peoriapublicschools.org website for more information.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Karat.
Yes, ma'am. Congratulations to the Peoria Public Schools class of 2016. More than 650 students crossed the stage at the Renaissance Coliseum this past Saturday and received their diploma. Manual Academy had 121 graduates, Peoria High had 237 graduates, and Richwood High School had 298 graduates. Jemison School will host its graduation ceremony tomorrow at 6. Again, congratulations to students, parents, and families. You did it.
Yes. That was a beautiful experience.
Yes.
It was. Okay, district presentations. Reading across the district.
Yep.
Who's doing that?
Miss Casey, I ran into her, and she probably had no idea. I just said, hey, she was presenting at one of our Parent University sessions, and I tried to just walk in and sit and sort of capture the essence of the various presentations. And I was really pleased with the information that she was sharing with parents. She's a 6th grade teacher at Roosevelt. She teaches ELA, English and Language Arts, and she's changed a little bit from the last time I've seen her. I said, you've grown a little bit. So thank you so much, Miss Casey. Actually, her real name is Cassandra Fritsch.
Thank you.
And I think the kids call her Miss Casey. So thank you so much. And the whole idea is, I think Ms. Jackson mentioned something about the summer slide to provide additional ideas and suggestions to parents around keeping students engaged while school is not in session. It's so, so important that we get them to continue to read every day. So thank you, Ms. Casey, for agreeing to come and present to the board, but primarily, hopefully, some of our families
Thank you.
viewing this session. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Dr. Crott said, I targeted this presentation to families at Parent University to kind of let them know what we were doing in schools in District 150 to help promote reading to the students and to help promote reading at home and encourage them, have the parents encourage their students to read, and to let them know what the benefits of reading outside of school are and why it's so important. I kind of focused on AR and AR 360. AR is Accelerated Reader, for those who don't know. It's a program that we use to, I use it personally to gauge how much students are reading at home. You can use it to gauge how much they're reading in the classroom. They can read a book and then they get to take short comprehension tests on it. AR 360 is a new program that they just added this year. Roosevelt was one of the schools that got to pilot it, and that is where they're taking nonfiction articles from the internet, from magazines, from newspapers, and students can read these through the Renaissance Place website, and then they can take, there's questions that they can answer about the articles, there's graphic organizers and stuff that they can do to organize the information that they're getting to encourage more of the nonfiction reading also that we all see as adults every day. So just a few graphics. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. You've got to read to keep your mind sharp. And I'm not going to go through and read this. I feel we can all read the information on here, but some important facts that I felt were important for people to take away is that it's not just important to be able to read the words on a page, but being able to understand what you are reading. And I feel in the classroom, I see a lot of students who can read the words, but then as we move into a curriculum that's more Common Core focused with higher Lexile levels, there's kind of a disconnect in understanding the more complex texts that they're reading. And the only way to get better with that is to practice reading. 46% of adults can't read the labels on their prescription bottles. I thought that was kind of scary, especially considering prescriptions. You kind of need to know what you're taking. 33%, we just talked about graduation, 33% of high school graduates will never read a book after high school. And 50% of U.S. adults can't read an 8th grade level textbook. I feel like that is probably going to increase as we see more complex texts coming into the classrooms. I know our 8th grade curriculum that District 150 uses has a lot of texts that I personally didn't see until high school, some of them even in college. So it's going to be even more difficult for students moving forward. This one, I put this in there and I showed it to my students in class, and I also sent it home as a little flyer for parents as well at the beginning of the year. I stress the importance of students reading 20 minutes at home every night. And this kind of just tells you if they are doing that, student A is reading the 20 minutes every night versus student C who reads 1 minute per day. And this is outside of school reading, not including what's done in the classroom. And it shows you how many minutes per year that adds up to be, how many words per year they're being exposed to, so their vocabulary is increasing. They're learning new ways to use words that they've already known the meaning for. And then, not that it's the end-all, be-all of everything, but also their standardized testing scores increase as well. Because I teach 6th grade, the little note at the bottom was kind of important. If they started reading for 20 minutes every night in kindergarten, by the end of their 6th grade year, student A will have read the equivalent of 60 extra school days. And when we only get to be with them for such a short amount of time, 178 days, something, 180 days, somewhere around in there, those extra 60 days really add up to a lot of practice that they're getting that we as teachers can't be there for. Student B, who only reads about 5 minutes per day, they're still getting 12 extra days. Student C, even if it's just 1 minute, they're getting 3 extra days, but pushing for those extra 19 minutes is where I like to target. However, with all of the social media and technology, there's a huge decline in extra reading. It's causing a lot of difficulty for students across the board in all subjects, not just in reading class, because in math you have to be able to read your story problems to understand what questions they are asking. Social studies, science, you have to be able to read to understand the information that's given. And we're not seeing as many people reading for pleasure as they can. Over the past decade, Americans who read the newspaper has dropped from 41% to 23%. The newspaper in print, I would say that's probably newspaper in print and online, because now there is so much access to online news as well. But 43% of American adults read below a basic level, and because most of what is written is above a basic level, they have difficulty reading the newspaper or news articles to be informed citizens. And since 1992, the number of high school seniors that can read proficiently at grade level has been on a steady decline. SAT scores are the lowest that we've seen in 4 decades. So here were some tips that I put in there to help families enjoy reading. I see a lot of students come into my room in 6th grade, and I ask them, what do you like to read? And they tell me they don't like to read. And so I think that developing that love of reading needs to start as infants. So having parents read with their student is probably the most basic way that parents can help encourage that love of reading. There have been surveys, middle school students have been surveyed to say, have been asked, why did your parents stop reading to you? What did you like about your parents reading to you? What did you like about reading with your parents? And even middle school students still enjoy reading with their parents. I have an 8-year-old daughter. She can read. She just got moved up to a 4.5 AR book level, and she still will come to me and say, Mom, can I read you this book? Or Dad, can I read you this book? So they still love to read with their parents, even if they can proficiently read on their grade level. If parents encourage that, then they're going to love the reading. Having a home that is filled with books, which Look, It's My Book is excellent at helping start that. I believe it was last year, Roosevelt also had some volunteers come in and do a lending library out on the playground, and so any book donations that we get, we put in there, and students, community members, family members just come take books, and we just keep refilling them as we get them. So that's a way, just even if it's books that they can't read, they can still look at the words. And then also personalizing it, so finding things that they enjoy to read, and having things to read that relates to them. One of the ways that I do this in my classroom is I'll ask my boys, first day of library, what do you like to read? A lot of them don't like to read. So I say, what sports do you like to play? And I'll hand them the Journal Star and say, all right, so what happened in Rich Woods' game last night, or in Manuel's game, and start with reading sports highlights or nonfiction books about their favorite football player or basketball player to get them some information in reading. And that kind of gets their attention, and they're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. And then reading on your own, obviously. We all have to be able to read on our own at some point in our life, so encouraging that as well can help students as they get older. Some games that you can play over on the left side, like having kids read their street signs. That can help with getting them to read quickly. I tell my students all the time, you may not like to read, but when you are driving on a road trip, you're going to have to read the street signs or you'll end up on the opposite end of the country. And you don't want that because you'll waste a lot of gas. So reading street signs, making grocery lists, reading the grocery lists when you're in the grocery store with them, reading directions how to get places. My daughter's one of those people that we go anywhere, and if there's a sign on the wall, she has to stop and read it. And if there's a word she doesn't understand, she'll ask, we'll talk about it. But I was the same way because that's what my mom did with me. It starts with the parents encouraging that. I also previewed, during my presentation, I previewed some different apps because, let's be real, our kids aren't going to be as excited to pick up a paperback book as they would to pick up an iPad or a cell phone or some type of tablet. And these are all apps that can help encourage kids to read through the use of technology. One of my favorites was the Dr. Seuss one, where they take the regular Dr. Seuss books that we all know and love with the old school graphics, and they animate the graphics, and they can start off by reading the book to the child, And then the child can read it with the automation, or with the audio book. So they'll read the words that they can read, and then if they don't know a word, they can touch it and it can read it back to them. Or they can read it on their own with no help at all. Something like that is good to encourage reading for the younger learners who possibly have someone at home who can't read to them. We do have that happening in our district, and so a lot of these apps have the option for the app to read to the child, so that the parents who can't read themselves can still help and interact with their child, and maybe, possibly, I don't know, learn along with them. So I kind of talked about this at the beginning, AR, Accelerated Reader. Teachers use it across the district. They can choose a book at their own level. So this year, I had students reading, by the end of the year, they were reading anywhere from as about a 2.5 to a 2.6, all the way up to around a 7.2. The first number typically coincides with their grade level, and then the second number typically coincides with the month of the school year it is. So like 2.4 would be fourth month of second grade. I have had students come to me at the beginning of sixth grade reading on a 0.4, which is kindergarten. So they're reading your sight word books. And because I can build up AR and give them treats for passing the tests, and we have a tracker in our room where they get to move their name when they get close to their goal, this student got very, very excited. So I couldn't keep books in her level enough because she was always taking them home and checking out from the library. I was having to borrow books from other teachers, and by the end of the year, she was reading on about a mid to late third grade level. And that's because she was going home and she was reading on top of the instruction that we were getting in the classroom. And then, so because the books are on their level, they can read them independently. Then they get to take a short quiz afterwards. And there are thousands of books that are accelerated reader books. All the public libraries around here know which books they have that are going to be AR books. And there's also a website that parents can go to just to double check. And then AR 360 is an extension, like I said, of Accelerated Reader. We had, I think, 60 site licenses for a 3-month trial at Roosevelt. So it ended up only being a couple of grade levels that got to try it. But after our site license expired, I was having students come and ask me, Miss Fridge, Miss Bird, how do I get back on that AR thing where I can read those articles? I want to read about this, I want to read about that, because we read in our collections textbook, we have a couple of stories that we read about Titanic. Well, then they wanted to go online and they wanted to see what else they could find about Titanic. And so this is a way, AR 360 was a way for them to, on their own, expand on what they were learning in the classroom, and to see that was amazing. And that's definitely something that I hope to see us get in the future. Some things that, like I said, I teach at Roosevelt, so these are our Roosevelt students, but some things that are happening across the district in the classroom to help foster that love of reading is stop, drop, and read. This is where schools can just say, at this certain time, for a certain amount of time, everybody, teachers, students, administrators, everybody stops what they're doing, picks up a book and reads. We did that a couple of times throughout the year.
I recognize that book.
Yeah, one of those David books. Yeah.
In trouble.
Yeah. And the kids really, even the kids who don't like to read, kind of relish this time of, okay, I'm not going to have somebody teaching me. I get to go into my own place and escape in my book moment. So that went over very well. Our 6th grade team has study hall, and so we had reading buddies. And that's where the 6th grade students would go to 1st grade classrooms, read with the students and help them take AR tests. Because 1st grade, they're just getting into accelerated reader, so they'd have their older reading buddy there to help them work the program to get them more independent. And then the 6th graders got a little taste of what it was like to be a teacher. And so my teammate and I kind of loved that. And then also we had Read Across America Day, February 29th through March 4th. Schools devoted time to independent reading, and students took AR tests. This coincided with every year AR has kind of a contest where they try and beat the biggest number of AR tests taken in one day. So this kind of coincided with that. And during that week, students were at Roosevelt, we were doing the stop, drop, and read, reading buddies, and really encouraging students to take your books home, read them, come back, take your tests on them. And Miss Steele had a little Read Across America plaque. So there was also a little element of competition going on too. And proud moment, Roosevelt got 2nd in the middle school and 1st for primary. But the numbers of students that were passing the tests is what was so amazing, because it's one thing to take a, say you read a book and take a test on it, and you have to get the 85% to consider it passed according to AR. And so I have students that'll just flip through a book real quick, sit down, take a test because they want to take a test, and then they get a 40%. And that doesn't really help them. The percents of the middle column, the percentage that were scoring 85% or higher, being that high on this list was awesome. And also having such a high percentage of students that were taking AR tests. I can speak personally for Roosevelt. That percentage, the 50%, was extremely impressive considering our situation we had in the out of our 5th through 8th grade. We have 3 long-term subs, and I think I was out of the building on the last 2 days of this at trainings and doctor's appointments. And so the fact that 50%, some may say not very good, but with the situation that we were in, that's amazing, because 8th graders, they're going to high school, they don't want to do something babyish like AR or, having substitutes in the building who don't know the program may not encourage it as much. So it was very impressive, and the kids were very, very proud when they heard that announcement. And then a little Dr. Seuss quote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Any questions or comments any board member have?
I have one.
You have one. Go ahead.
I can't see you around the corner there.
Sorry.
One of the things I learned in an entirely different setting was the impact of lack of corrective vision for kids that need glasses in terms of their ability to read. How do we address the vision care issues that relate to their being able to read?
Right. I actually see a lot of that in my classroom as well. Their glasses break, or they don't have them, or they lose them. I know in the past, it might have been Lens Crafters has donated so many free eye exams and pairs of glasses, and so teachers are able to, if we notice a student is struggling to see, can't see the board, complaining of headaches, squinting, a lot of stuff like that, we would be able to refer them, and they would be able to go and get the free eye exam and glasses. Other than that, I don't know of any community resources for students, other than urging their parents to try to get them in for the eye exams.
Okay, thank you. Just seemed to me there could be some simple screening that could be done in the school. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but if you can't read the chart on the
We
wall.
have screening, don't we?
You do that?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
screenings.
We have a vision and hearing department in the district that travels to each of our buildings.
Okay.
And then the foundation also has a partnership with Bard Optical. So they work with the principals to get referrals.
Good, thank you. That's good to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Costa?
I have a question. Years ago, when I was in school, we had phonics. And I find that today, many children have a problem with being able to break a word down by syllables. And so I think that that had a lot to do, and it still does have a lot to do with children reading, because if they can't pronounce a word, they can't visualize what the word actually is, then they have a hard time comprehending it. So I think phonics is very, very important. Also, with children that I work with, we use like sight words in early childhood education, even starting with the infants, just bright letters and things like that. And I have reading is so important because we have in our centers, we have 2-year-olds that are actually reading. Serious, actually reading, starting with their peers' names and things like that. So it is very, very important. I think that once you start to read, you keep that love of reading up. So I think it's very, very important. But I would like to see phonics coming back into the schools.
I know that I'm not 100% familiar with the primary curriculum, just vaguely from my short amount of time at Franklin, but they do have reading mastery for the lower grades that kind of focuses on the phonics and the sounding sounds out. I have used 95% group with students, with whole group and with individual students that need the extra phonics help. And then I think there's one other one, but I'm not for certain.
Yeah, well, there are 5 components. Remember, there's phonemic awareness, there's
Yeah.
phonics, there's fluency, vocabulary, and then comprehension.
Yeah.
So when everything is said and done, the presentation that you've given, they're practicing and they're practicing over and over. And all of these subcategories culminate into individuals who can understand and summarize and analyze what they've just read. So, yeah. We
Thank
have.
you. Oh, go ahead,
No,
sorry.
that's okay. That's okay, we're good. Miss Casey didn't, see, I didn't know her, I just stumbled into a session, and I said, would you be willing to come to the board and present to our parents? So thank you, Miss Casey.
No problem.
For being game.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming out this evening. Safe routes?
Yeah, the next
To school.
the next presentation, as they're coming up, this has to do for a reconfiguration, and remember we talked about some of our kids who are not in the eligible area will be walk-in. There'll be more walk-in than we've had in the past. So we have been, per your directive board, we have been sort of preparing for that, and we have Josh Collins and Mr. Worley and Sergeant Gould. They've done a really nice job putting a presentation together and getting us ready for the upcoming school year. So I'll let them present the information that they've developed thus far.
Each have a copy of it.
Yep. Mr. Collins, please take it away.
Good evening, everyone. We want to run through the safe routes, what we've done so far. I'll try to keep it brief since tomorrow is going to be the last day of school, woo-hoo. So basically, I want to recap transportation eligibility. Again, just to recap, the Transportation Department will only provide bus service to schools for students living in the living in the eligibility areas. That again would be any student living over 1.5 miles or greater from the school, or students that are living across a significant hazard. The schools that will be most impacted by this are going to be Lincoln, Harrison, Trewin, Peoria High, Roosevelt, Keller, and Whittier are also going to see changes. Eligibility, again, is based on a point system. Basically, what we're looking for is walking along a roadway, walking on a roadway, crossing a roadway, or crossing railroad tracks. Eligibility criteria are broken down by K through 8 or 9 through 12. Location and placement of sidewalks, the speed limit on the street that if they're walking along or crossing, the volume of traffic, and the distance to school. Transportation eligibility, to try to bring it down into a nutshell, basically serious safety hazard can be a combination of factors. The rules are designed to identify most relevant factors and are assigned points values. We utilize a spreadsheet to calculate those point values. If a roadway or crossing a roadway equals 12 points or more, then that would be considered a serious safety hazard by the state. Of course, if we have a roadway or something that points out, let's say at 11 points, then the district has 2 discretionary points that we can utilize, but those discretionary points have to be based on vehicular activity, not on other issues that has to deal with vehicles. So, to recap what we've done so far, mailers have been sent to families affected by the realignment changes by Chris Copeland. That was done at the beginning of April. Letters were provided to principals and AIOs to send to parents after Safe Routes presentations were done in the schools. List of students projected to be affected were sent to the AIOs. Those were distributed to the principals so that, again, those students could be directly contacted and their families. Safe Routes to School presentation was produced by School Safety and provided to the schools for distribution. Transportation staff has also met with the principals and the schools affected to go over some things and get their feedback. To continue with things that we've done, Safe Route maps have been produced now by Transportation, indicating safest walking routes and locations of crossing guards have been added to those maps. I believe I distributed to everyone copies of the maps so that you have those copies of those maps as well. They're also on the website, I believe now. Yes, Chris is nodding his head. They're on the website now. Also, sidewalk and crosswalk safety pamphlets, which I also handed out. Those were handed out at the K Fair. We've also attended an East Bluff Community Board meeting in May. That was very eye-opening as far as were some grad students working on actually the same problem, Safe Routes to Schools. The grad students put together a tremendous presentation that they were giving to their board. I was introduced to, her name was Kathleen Brown, I believe was her name. She's going to be in contact with me next school year to see if we can set up a situation where we can have some grad students work with us in developing this same type of situation. On May 18th and 19th, we had a walking field trip at Harrison, focusing on pedestrian safety. And again, the Safe Routes have been produced and given to Chris Copeland for the district website. At these schools in May, presentations and letters were sent home. As you can see, Keller has completed their lesson presentation and letter went home. Whittier, same thing. Harrison, we did the lesson presentation as well as a walking tour, and letters went home in both Spanish and English. Glen Oak had a lesson and presentation, as well as Roosevelt and Lincoln. Trewin and Peoria High and Manual had assemblies and also sent the letters home. So that brings us to next steps where we're at. May 25th, we have a neighborhood house meeting that we're going to go to and give a presentation there for families. We also have bus safety for parents pamphlet. Again, the pamphlet that you have in front of you. Those are going to be handed out to parents at all events that we go to for our hiring events, hiring fairs, anything that transportation's involved in, we'll take those pamphlets with us. We're going to do 2 mailers this year to ineligible students. This is something new that we have not done this year, or we've not done in the past. We are going to do a mailer after the initial Skyward rollover. We're going to roll over Versatrans here at the beginning of June. Skyward will be rolled over sometime toward the end of June. Once Versatrans and Skyward are reconnected through the import-export process, we're going to do an initial mailer to students, to all students who are ineligible, so that we can start answering questions and doing things here in July rather than waiting until the beginning of the school to try to get some of these issues worked out. We're also going to do a second one right at the beginning of school, just again to touch base with all of the families that could be affected with ineligibility for transportation. We're also going to try to reach out to the community to attend community meetings to present the safe routes. So anywhere there's community meetings or anything like that, if you come across those or you know of any, please send that to myself or Rich Gould, and we would be happy to get in contact with them to try to set up something that we can do so that we can do some of these community outreach there to reach parents through those. We're also working with the city to produce our safe routes in the county GIS map. We've got our boundaries have been sent over, so we have a preliminary sent back to us. So we just had a conversation with them today to move forward. So we're going to meet with the individual with the city that controls our GIS map to start building then the layers for what we want it to do. Essentially what we would like to do is have something that we could place on the website that families can zoom in on, zoom out on, look specifically for crossing guard locations, crosswalk locations, the locations of the stoplights, the entrances to the school, and then the safest way, depending on what area those students are living in, to get into those schools. So long-term, looking down the road, that's where we would like to be with that. School assessments. Transportation Department and Campus Security joined forces to do a school assessments. So Rich Gould, myself, and Michael Worley, we went to these schools that were most affected with the ineligibility to do some assessments. I also passed out the assessment review that we did jointly so that you can see some of the positive aspects, negative aspects, some in-house recommendations that we were making to buildings and grounds, and also some recommendations that we were making to the city. So we observed start times, release times, so we reviewed everything. Changes, updates, and upgrade recommendations have been made to administration now based on the observations. Some examples would be recommend location for additional crossing guards, update and install signage at the schools. Recommendations have now been made to the city for areas where they can assist. Examples here would be the installation of new crosswalks or sidewalk upgrades. Also updated signage in school zone areas. We did notice that the signage in a lot of the school areas were missing. So on May 9th, we met with the city to discuss these recommendations for changes and improvements. They did indicate to us that they are currently going through and updating their crosswalks now, repainting some crosswalks, and they would take our recommendations into consideration when viewing what areas they want to upgrade the crosswalks in. They also said that they would take our recommendations and see how they can slot them into their different projects that they have going on currently. And also, again, we were asked at the city council meeting to assist in obtaining grants. We did indicate that to the city when we had our meeting, that we would be happy to assist them in any way, shape, or form that we could in getting any grants that could help out with that. So that was the school assessment. Now I just want to briefly go through the maps again so that you have the opportunity to see the maps. Again, I included some projections. We're projecting, again, Glen Oak to be about 654 ineligible students. This is really actually no change from previous years. It's going to be roughly about the same since there were no ineligibility area changes at Glen Oak. But again, we did produce a map. Again, to go through the different colors on the map that you'll notice, Those different colors really are just indicating the major pathways. So again, you have a major pathway coming from the south, one coming from the north, you have some coming from the east. The reason for the different colors is if a student or family lives along, let's say this red line here, we would prefer that you use this major pathway to approach the school. We are working again with the GIS to try and incorporate the color coding, again, just to indicate where we would like those students to be walking along. Tree Wind School, we're projecting approximately 380 to be ineligible. This will be a change. Most of these students are offered transportation now, so this will be a change for Tree Wind. Again, a Tree Wind map has been produced. Same thing here with the color coding. Depending on what area these students are living in, these are the approaches that we would like to make to the school. Keller Primary, due to the sidewalk installation along Mount Holly, several students were made now ineligible or created an ineligibility area. We're projecting approximately 34 students in that area to be ineligible. Keller's was fairly simple. Most everybody lives in the same area that was affected, so obviously only one color. So the major approach here would be all the students from these areas. We would like for them to make the approach on the sidewalks there. Harrison Community Learning Center, we're projecting approximately 451 students in the ineligibility area. We are currently offering transportation to all students at Harrison. Next year, we will not be offering students in the ineligibility area, so we're projecting approximately 451 students. Currently, I believe we have 221 routed, so it'll be an increase of approximately 221 based on our routing. And again, the map that was produced for Harrison, again, same situation, students living along the red lines. We would like to use the red approach to the school, obviously the green areas, so on and so forth. Lincoln, there was a boundary change at Lincoln. So the number of students ineligible at Lincoln will be increasing. That's going to be increasing to about 337. That's what we're projecting. Currently, students attending Lincoln are offered transportation even in ineligibility areas, and we will stop offering the transportation to students in the ineligibility areas. So they're going to see an increase next year of approximately, we have 261 routed, so we're anticipating an increase of about 261 students for next year. Their area is a little bit larger, so we broke it up into two sections so that you can see it easier. We have a section that is toward the south of the school here at the bottom, and we have a section that's including the Averyville area here. This area is the new area for Lincoln. It was currently attending Glen Oak. Manual Academy has a total of 612. That is 446 high school students. That's no change from this current school year. However, they are going to be taking on 7th and 8th graders from the Harrison and Tree Wind area, and a majority of those students are within the ineligibility area for manual. So that breaks down to about 166 7th and 8th graders that we're projecting, and the 446 for high school. Again, with manuals area, we broke it up into two maps to indicate the safe pathways to the school with the two maps. Peoria High School, we're projecting approximately 235 students. Out of that 235, 228 are routed. Those students are primarily students living directly across Knoxville along the Peoria Street area. Those students would no longer be eligible for transportation. And we also broke that map up into two pieces, again showing the preferred pathways that we would like those students to take. Roosevelt Magnet will be taking on students that were in the annexed area. Some of the annexed area will be ineligible for transportation to Roosevelt. We're projecting approximately 119 with the changes. We also broke that school up into two maps. Also the same situation, students living obviously in the yellow areas, we want utilizing that pathway, so on and so forth. Whittier Primary School, due to the changes on Main Street, the reduction of the street to 2 lanes, the reduction of the speed limit, and the installation of the crosswalks on the corner of University and Main, has rendered a section across Main Street ineligible for transportation, and there are we're projecting 25 students to be ineligible from that area. And again, we produced a map indicating where we would like those students to approach the school. In addition to this, we're also going to move the busing from dropping off on the Fredonia side to dropping off in the parking lot, and that is done to reduce some of the congestion that's occurring on the Fredonia side of the school in the morning during drop-off. The parents and the school buses are fighting for the same real estate. So I just want to give a brief overview of the pedestrian presentation. Mr. Gould here was gracious enough to produce some pedestrian slideshows to give. Obviously, this one is geared more toward the younger students, but it's also my favorite. So I've got a few slides from it so that you can see what presentations were given in the schools. So again, that's for the younger students. Here's an example of something that was developed for the older students, for the middle and high school students. This one focuses primarily on facts and numbers. Again, reiterating the importance of staying on the sidewalk, using the crosswalks, waiting for the lights to change. And those presentations were given at the schools that I indicated earlier. So that's where we're at right now with the safe routes. I believe Rich wanted to add a few things as far as the school assessment.
Not so much as the assessment. As far as the video or the presentations go, I just wanted to stress that these presentations were intentionally made. They're made up of solid principles for safety as far as pedestrian traffic goes, but also with some statistical talking points. And intentionally, I say, because I wanted these presentations to elicit some dialogue between the students and the presenter. I think that's where these are most effective. A student tells a story and the presenter reinforces a good principle for walking safely. They can also be easily altered to fit several things throughout the year. For example, if we wanted to reduce the primary version down to just a few slides and talk about Halloween safety. Several kids walking at night, some different things. We can alter the PowerPoint from that. It's ours. We can do whatever we want with it. We've also inclement weather. Maybe in late November we start talking about heavily snow and how we get back and forth to school as a pedestrian when there's lots of snow on the ground and on sidewalks. And also incidents of major construction. I know Northmore is going to be altered here very shortly, and kids are going to have to figure out, or there's got to be safe ways for kids to get to and from school when there's construction in the area. Beyond those two presentations, we also have about 95% done. We have a stray dog / animal safety presentation that we worked with PAWS, some administration PAWS on. With more kids walking, there may be more encounters with animals. Similar presentations, one geared for older kids, one geared for younger kids. And we're also talking about beginning a stranger danger program. Again, similar concepts. All important topics. It's just a timeliness factor right now.
What we're currently working on right now is taking the slideshow that we showed you. We're going to combine everything together into a single slideshow. The purpose of this is that we can, if we're asked to go to Keller, for instance, and provide a presentation at Keller, we can hide or unhide the appropriate slides and then give the presentation at Keller. This makes it very easy for any one of the three of us or our departments to give the presentation, but we're giving the same information to all students so that we're not giving misinformation here, there, or presenting it in a different way. So that's where we're at currently.
When we met with Mr. Collins and Mr. Worley and Sergeant Gould, we talked about the recommendations, and especially in-house recommendations. Those were of most importance important to me, and we're working to fulfill those recommendations and alleviate the obstacles. For example, how many crossing guards did we say would be needed? About 12? Did we count them? Was it about 12, Mr. Worley?
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's correct.
We're in the process of sort of
It's an additional.
additional 12.
I also included at the end the current locations of the crossing guards now. We did, as I said, we indicated them on the map, but I also provided that information so that you can see where we currently have crossing guards. And that's on the back page.
When it comes to manual, I noticed that under the positive aspects, it says has good sidewalks in areas students are approaching. Where would those sidewalks be?
The sidewalks are in the area right near the school. We focused on the school premises itself, looking at the way the students were accessing the school. So the school itself in the front has very good sidewalks. There's also good sidewalks next to the school on Lincoln, and then also on Antoinette for the approaches, directly in front of the school also. Now, in the Treewind area, when you reach further south, the sidewalks begin to deteriorate quite rapidly.
And also,
yeah.
right,
Mhm.
But I guess I'm still wondering about, what about just past the school, where the kids are coming from? There were no sidewalks there some years ago. The city police were giving tickets for the kids, and of course that got reversed, but there are no sidewalks there at all. Are we, and that wasn't one of the recommendations for the city under this.
We utilized the Treewind area to make those recommendations for sidewalks. I believe that we made that recommendation to Mr. Stouffer. But again, we focused, when we did our school assessment, we focused right on the campus for the sidewalks, and the sidewalks at the campus itself were in good shape.
Right, I mean,
Correct.
the city, they're aware that sidewalk is needed in those other areas, and
Yeah, they've been aware
we've
of
seen their budget, and remember they said they only had, what, $2 million in that line item for so many million, for the entire city.
Yeah.
So
I understand
we focused
that.
on what we had control over. But we are in communication with them, and actually it's on our agenda for Wednesday, and we'll continue to have conversations with the city about this collaboration, and we're in a good spot. We've begun working together closely, and I think it will only get better.
And one other question. I heard you say that you were going to be doing a presentation on May 25th
That's correct.
at the neighborhood house.
That's correct.
What group is that with?
I'm not sure
That's
we were.
with I invited Josh and the team. That's with the Journal Star, and is it Dennis? I
Oh, it
get
must
Dennis
be.
and Mike mixed up. Dennis Anderson. I was at another community group, and
Okay, because the Southside Community United for Change also has a program there, and I was wondering if, because I didn't see you on that.
it's during the day, and apparently they meet on a monthly basis, and that's where they have a conversation with the community and get ideas about stories to feature and those sorts of things. So it's,
Okay. I was just wondering.
hopefully they can pick up this story and help educate our families. So that was, at least that's what I was thinking. But it is during the day,
Yeah, at the same time. Ms. Costi?
like at noon.
I have a question in regards to, when you were speaking of Whittier, and you said the bus not stopping on Fredonia now,
Correct.
but going into the
back.
the parking lot area?
That's correct, yes.
And that's how we did it when I was a principal there.
I mean, it just seems like there'd be so much more congestion with the
It's just staff that, we load there, but we don't unload there. I know we used to unload there, and for some reason it was moved to the front on Fredonia. But right now on Fredonia, there is a tremendous amount of congestion there. So we made the decision to move them back to that parking lot to try to relieve a lot of that congestion that's occurring there during the drop-off.
And
But I
I've
know
gotten
we've done it
some
in the past.
complaints also. It worked when we did it in the back, and we protected the kids, so their parents dropped off on Fredonia, and the activities with the buses happened in that back, and they were safe, safer anyway than in the front.
I believe a couple of cameras are being installed in that area too, so that there will be security coverage in that area too for the busing. And I do monitor anytime that we have cameras looking at loading areas. I have that at my desk and I monitor that.
I hear Ms. Stockman talking. That's your school. Do you have any feedback, Ms. Stockman?
Well, I was down there when we did it, and I think it would be much safer if we moved it to the back. We have cars that go in and out at the front, and I just think it would be much safer if we moved it to the back.
What are you thinking, Ms. Costick?
No, I just was thinking that, with the parking back there and the buses coming in, because they would come in from the Fredonia side or right by the tennis court.
Yeah. Is that Cooper? They would come in off of Cooper and slide in?
Off Cooper. Yeah, they pull in off of Cooper and then they exit onto Bradley. So they go around the banana-shaped drive that they have
By the
there.
tennis courts. He's good, so he'll have them organized so that it's...
Well, I don't doubt that. I was just asking. He says questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We want questions.
Mr. Adler.
Appreciate the amount of detail that obviously has been put into kind of preparing our schools and our families for this change. Obviously, it's hundreds of students that are going to, probably have a different path to school, including a lot of walking, which on one hand is very good. On the other hand, might be a little bit disruptive. Do we have, a contingency plan or a monitoring plan for those first couple days as we, see the results of the new change and how to adapt?
To answer the question, we know that this is, like we've said before, that we're going to have to look at it and make changes and adapt as needed. So yes, our plan is to monitor it. That's why we want to put out the mailer right away, so we get those parent feedback immediately, rather than trying to conduct the first day of school and do these other things that we need to do. But most definitely, I know campus security and I have talked, and we most definitely are going to be monitoring it, and then taking a look at it and making any adaptations or changes that need to be made, most definitely.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just one, early in the slideshow, you had an example or some examples of discretionary points. Could you, I was trying to get through those, and could you put those?
Sure. The district has the ability to use discretionary points based on vehicular activity. So the example that they give, and the example that I use is, if you can imagine, Sterling Avenue. So Sterling Avenue actually points out at 11 points. So according to the state, Sterling Avenue would not be considered a hazard for Sterling School. If you look at the approach from the neighborhood, they would have to cross at Newman Parkway and Sterling. At Newman Parkway and Sterling, you have two businesses. There's two automotive shops there. The automotive shops empty onto Newman Parkway. So you have vehicles crossing the pathway.
Okay.
We can use that as a discretionary point and say, we have vehicles crossing the pathway, there's our discretionary point, we have 12 points, now it's a hazard.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Coy?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the detail provided here. A couple things. One of them is, this is obviously going to increase the number of car drop-offs in some of these schools, and I would hope there's some sort of strategy to communicate how that's going to be done, because this is going to be a traffic hazard in some places. So that's number one. Number two, to follow up on Mr. Adler's point, the attendance impact might be somewhat in the first couple of days, but the first heavy rain or the first snowfall that's a couple inches, we need to evaluate that relative to what's the attendance drop-off today with a heavy snow versus a drop-off under this plan with a heavy snow. And I'm going to suggest that there are kids that don't have the appropriate clothing to be walking 1.5 miles in heavy winter conditions. And I think we're going to see a big drop-off in attendance after the weather turns cold and snowy. And that's not good for the kids, and it's not good for the schools. So somebody needs to be prepared to make a decision on that, and whether that's going to be working real quick. I mean, real quick. Not, I'd say wait until it happens, but if this thing doesn't work when there's 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground, don't wait till next summer to figure out how to fix that, okay? I won't be around to scold you about it, but I'm just saying, I understand why this is being done, I support it, but I think it is untested. And in being untested, I think it's going to present some real challenges. And I hope you just get a lot of data. I mean, this is really a data-driven issue here. What's the attendance? What's the non-attendance? What are the weather conditions? You could run a spreadsheet on it. But I'm telling you, graph it, because that's the sort of data analysis you're going to need. And there's a trade-off between what we save in terms of the transportation costs that aren't reimbursed and the loss of attendance and the loss of teaching time as well. So hopefully that's just a point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My sentiments exactly.
I think the other thing, as I read the school safety transportation review, we're going to have to really educate parents, because I see a lot of them are driving on the sidewalk, being in between buses and in areas that it's not good for children to getting in and off the bus, or just in front of the school where kids are being dropped off. So we're going to have to do a lot of educating of parents, and if we can't get that to change, what are the consequences happen when parents or people dropping off kids are not doing what they need to do and impeding the bus and the kids going to school. So I think we need to give some kind of thought to what we're going to do. The other thing is really discourage kids from taking alleys. And I think we have to do that by dealing with parents so that kids aren't taking alleys to get anywhere for the schools. I think alleys are not good places. I think alleys are dangerous. So we need to do a lot of education with parents on driving and letting kids walk through areas that are not safe.
Other questions or comments for Josh and the team? No? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a technology overview.
Another presentation per board request. Michelle Seipel will give us a quick update. She's the Director of Technology.
I feel so short down here. Board members, thank you for allowing me to present the technology overview. I will try to be brief, but please feel free to either hold your questions or jump in. I have 7 slides to present tonight. And I need to click the right button. At Peoria Public Schools, currently our computer hardware, we have an estimated 6,000 desktop computers, an estimated 2,500 laptop computers. They're all running Windows 7, but we're moving into Windows 10. You can see from the next bullet point that 2,000 of these desktops and laptops are currently between 5 and 8 years old. So that has been something that we have been discussing with finance. Using Title I funds that Carla Eman was able to procure for us, we were able to purchase 975 replacement student desktops, which we'll begin deploying this summer of 2016 to start cycling out some of those 2,000 desktops. In addition to the desktops and laptops, we also have an estimated 3,200 iPads at the district. We have 90 iPad carts. Those are between 10 and 30 iPads in each of those carts. That's included in the 3,200. The new thing that we are getting, which you've seen on the PO reports, is the HP Stream devices. Approximately 1,300 streams have been purchased using the Title I funds, so these will be used for students only. These are coming with Windows 10. They're coming in the fall, so the students will start seeing them in the fall. These are wireless-only devices. In most every classroom now, we do have smart boards plus projectors. We have 800 plus. This allows the teacher to do more interactive presentations with the students. I wanted to put into here a slide regarding E-rate. I know I mention it every single year. E-rate is the schools and library program. It's commonly called E-rate. It allows schools to use federal funds to obtain high-speed internet access and telecommunications. We are typically sitting in the 70 to 90% discount range. We either get discounts or reimbursed for internet and infrastructure equipment and services. Starting in 2014, however, the federal government decided to phase out funding for voice systems, whether it's desk phones or cell phones, and they're focusing instead on wireless and infrastructure. And just to give you an idea, from 1998 through 2015, the district has been using E-rate funds for all this time. We submitted for $22 million worth of equipment and services, and we only had to pay $10 million because we were able to use the E-rate funds. Our current infrastructure, we were able to upgrade using the E-rate funds to 10 gigabits per second links between buildings. We have 1 gigabits per second wired to the desktop, and we have wireless access points throughout all of our buildings. In 2012, I don't know if any of you remember that were on the board at that time, we presented for the E-rate project for full wireless throughout the district. So we were able to we were able to utilize it. It came to more than 80%, more than 20% that we had to pay. But because some buildings don't qualify for E-rate depending upon their free and reduced lunch. But we were at that time able to get all of our buildings on wireless. So we have full coverage, but we're not yet at full density. And that's going to be an issue coming up this school year. That's when we work with the HP streams that are being deployed that are wireless only. We can certainly have an iPad, a teacher with an iPad, walking around the entire building or walking through any building, and they'll be able to do wireless. But if you tried to put 30 HP streams in a classroom and 30 HP streams in the next classroom and the next classroom and the next classroom, currently we don't have enough wireless access points to handle that density. So we're going to be monitoring that this year, this upcoming year, and then we're going to be deploying more wireless access points as needed. And then last, we also have our phone system at the district. That was another E-rate project before they phased out the voice systems. So from 2012, that was when we were able to convert to the connected digital IP phone system. Prior to 2012, every building, around 30 buildings, had their own separate phone server. They weren't necessarily connected, not all of them were. You couldn't intercom between each of the buildings. In 2012, that's when we started consolidating down to 14 phone servers. It allowed us to use our existing phones, so we didn't have to buy a lot of new phones. We worked primarily on the phone servers. Now this year, we're looking to consolidate and upgrade down from 14 servers to 7 phone servers. That will also reduce our phone downtime due to the older equipment. And then the buildings that are getting the new phone servers will go to the IP phones, and then the digital phones that are in those buildings can be used in the remaining 7 buildings that still use digital phones. We can't buy those digital phones anymore. They're end of life. They're way end of life. So we're hoping to reduce the overall cost by utilizing the existing stock that we still have in the district for replacement and repairs. Okay, I know that was brief, but do you have any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone have any questions? Technology?
Just curious, when you consolidate it down to the 7 servers, are those VMware or are they actual hardware?
They're actual hardware from the Vertical. The vendor is Vertical. So we have a tech on staff who's certified with Vertical, and because we're so large, we're able to go direct to Vertical instead of having to go through a reseller now.
Somebody else? Ms. Adler?
I can certainly appreciate the difficulties in keeping up with the technology, and especially since we have so many assets across the district. My question is, given that reality, have we ever priced out or sought out options to lease equipment or essentially pay for the use of it rather than, buying all of our own infrastructure and building that stock up on our own?
We have looked into it in the past. In the past, we were able to use the E-rate funds, which was not so much for leasing, it was for purchasing, so that was one reason why we went with that. The other issue we've had in the past is making sure that we had the continuous funding source every single year for the leasing, as opposed to purchasing outright and trying to get as much lifespan as we can out of the devices, which is kind of why we're at that point of the computers that are between 5 and 8 years old now. But we have gotten our money's worth out of them.
Okay, thank you.
You have something?
Yes, I just wanted to add that I think your group does a tremendous job in taking care of an enormously complex and cumbersome system, and it's a big challenge, and I just thank you for all the work that you do and they do as well.
Thank you. We're small but mighty.
Other questions, comments? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We are now at the place on our agenda that will provide an opportunity for the members of the community who wish to address the board. As you know, we are volunteers elected to oversee the development, implementation, and maintenance of a quality education for the students of Peoria Public School, District 150. The board welcomes your comments and suggestions relating to this goal. Recognizing that we all have our First Amendment rights of free speech, we ask that your comments be focused on those issues within the board's authority. There are some issues we are not at liberty to discuss in public, such as personnel and other executive session topics. However, if you have a specific personal concern that need to be addressed, we will get a staff person to help you. In addition, the board members are accessible outside of these meetings by telephone and/or emails, and they are listed on our website, psd150.org. We realize that 3 minutes may not be enough time for some of you to express your thoughts, so we have installed a comment box for your convenience. Our board secretary will be collecting those comments after each board meeting and compiling and sharing with the board and/or the superintendent. When you're recognized, please come to the podium and state your name for our records. Each speaker has 3 minutes, and no one under age 18 may address the board under age 18 may address the board unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or teacher without the consent of the full board. Mr. Sierra, Mr. Savino Sierra. Come on down.
Sabino Sierra, 1708 South Stanley on South Side. Yeah, we listened to the board for almost 90 minutes, and I keep telling you, we should have 5 minutes to speak. And I'm going to keep on you till we get it. You know, you're setting a bad example to the governor. He's kind of stubborn, and that's how I see the board sometimes, that when we ask for something that we'd like to have, we should have it. You should agree with us. It's fine that we have all these machines and that, but what are you going to do if they break down? You know, you're lost, you know. Just like a bank, if you call and you want data on your account, and they tell you, we can't give it to you, the computers are down, you know. And this really doesn't, it helps our kids while they got the machines in front of them. But if they don't have them, you know, they don't, they're lost lots of times, you know. And I always say, what happened to the old fashion, you know, the old time education, you know, where we send out a lot of smart people. And this is what I say, they're smart while they got those machines in front of them, but when they go out, you know, they're going to be lost. And this is no way to teach our students. We got to teach them to use their brain as to store their, what do you call it, their intelligence. And so I don't know what to tell you. We're going to have to go back a lot to the old-fashioned, old type of teaching our children, because I talk to a lot of students, and they can't answer you. You know, you ask them a question or something, and they're in the dark. So I mean, we got to find a way to do better, even with your machines. But we got to practice our children to use their brain and store their information up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sierra. Ms. Sharon Cruz?
Trying to find a solution for collecting for lost books and unpaid fees has plagued the district for years. When I started teaching, textbooks were not issued to students who hadn't paid book fees and fines. I was one of the teachers who complained that students without textbooks was a major problem for teachers and students. That policy ended. I know only that at Manual, collecting for unpaid fees was put off until graduation. On fee day, when issuing the bills to students, I was amazed to see that a significant number of students had accumulated $300 to $400 of debt. Early on, students were told that they could not go through the graduation ceremony without paying their debts. Then the threat of no diploma was used and failed. Finally, students were told that for eternity, they could not request a transcript until their debts were paid. The board policy that reads, students receiving a fee waiver are not exempt from charges for lost and damaged books has been violated for several years. You should either follow it or change it. Is what I hear true, that in many cases students are not allowed to take textbooks home? Surely that would be a travesty for many reasons, and I've heard it constantly. And proof that the almost $2 million spent on new textbooks in the last 4 years was too much if only a classroom set is needed. In 2014, I presented a FOIA response that proved that unissued books and materials were worth $250,000 were stored in the district's warehouse. I wasn't told why. First of all, please get data to prove that replacing lost books is costing much too much. That can only be done if accurate records are kept as to how many books are lost and how much each book costs. Also, what is the policy if a student asks for a replacement for a lost book during the year? The parents, not the students, are responsible for the bills incurred by their children. Perhaps the district has not let parents know about the seriousness of this problem. If parents know that they would most certainly be held legally responsible for their children's lost books, I believe they would find ways to avoid the expense. Most parents have found a way. The district should expect that and act accordingly. I know I did my part by keeping a list of book numbers issued to each student and doing periodic checks to see if students had their own books with them. The problem of lost books should be taken very seriously, and as the saying goes, think not out of the box for solutions. Goodness gracious.
Thank you.
I wish you'd get your timer fixed, because I practiced this and practiced it, and I didn't get my last paragraph in.
It was 3 minutes, though. Thank you. Miss Jackie Moncton, did I pronounce? Pardon me? Moncton.
Jackie Moncton.
Oh, okay, Jackie.
I live in Peoria. Am I supposed to say my address or just my name? Jackie Moncton. I wanted to address the board about a recent event on the riverfront, and it's called Courageous Pacers. Maybe you've heard of it. We're not quite the Bass Fishing T-shirt, but the Physical Therapy Department developed this program about 9 years ago. It is geared for all kids, disabled and non-disabled. It's a great inclusion opportunity. Olive Keller, Olive Jamison, classrooms from the DC, Manual, Richwoods, Peoria High, Woodrow Wilson, Lindbergh, and TJ participated this year. The kids walk 2 to 3 miles a week and lift water bottle weights throughout the school year. The ending event is a celebration of their walking 100 miles and lifting 10,000 pounds. The walk begins at Constitution Park and ends at the Gateway Building. The PT department works on planning this event the entire school year, and this year we reached out to the community for donations to support this event. This year, we raised $3,850. All 8 of us were like technology, small but mighty, and with this money, we were able to purchase a T-shirt for every child, all 476 of them. It was our biggest year yet. Every year, we have gained more classrooms that want to participate. Maureen Langhoff even pulled her 2 kids out of Charter Oak to participate. We have a DJ from Power 92.3 who donates his time for the 3rd year in a row. He even posted a video on his Facebook, on 92.3's Facebook page. We have a treat bag at the finish line that has a water bottle donated by Hinckley Schmidt, and Pepsi, and Hy-Vee. Fruit donated by Sodexo. We have a finish line donated by Shazam Racing. The Gateway and Park District are gracious with lending us tables and electrical cords and making sure it's all ready down on the trail. The kids eat their sack lunches there, and after that, we have movement activities planned like volleyball, bags tournament, kickball, and also recess games, 8 of them. The kids rotate through, and we teach them the old Mother May I, Red Rover, the old recess games. We have a flash mob dance. We had a grand marshal, Jameson's past principal, Karen Orndorff, who wasn't able to make it, but our former principal, Jeanette Casayer, led the walk of these 476 kids and their teachers. Many people helped to make this event happen. We always send out invites to admin as well as follow the chain of command by sending to Chris Copeland, and hope that he sends out to the media. Where were you? So with all the negativity of Peoria Public Schools, this was a very positive story of 476 of our kids. This year, I was disappointed to not see a single person from admin, Remarkable Times, nor any press. This is a positive press for Peoria Public Schools. We had Pip Printing donated a sign that thanked all of our sponsors and donors. We reached out to the community to support us, and we got a huge response. We, too, would like to see the rebranding of Peoria Public Schools, but we could use your help. When we go to ask donors again next year, it would have been helpful if they would have seen the hoopla that goes on with this event. Sadly, there was none, not even a picture in the paper. A mom videotaped her daughter, her wheelchair-bound daughter, walk across the finish line in her gait trainer. And I'm not going to be able to finish either, but I have wonderful pictures. And our sponsors.
Thank you so much. Any response to audience presentation?
Yeah, so kudos to Jackie. I heard about it. I really meant to be there, and I just had another conflict. But we did send Maureen, and she came back and she shared at Cabinet the successful event. So keep doing it. We'll continue to support.
Make sure all of you can.
And we'll work hard on it. So thanks for presenting, though. I'm happy you came. And what I was thinking in reference to Mrs. Cruz's presentation, maybe we can have Ms. Gershnich at some point in the near future just give an update regarding lost books. We're working hard on collecting fees. I think we're off to a good start as far as that's concerned. And Mr. Sierra's 5 minutes, I'll turn that over to you. He is consistent about his request.
The comment box is right over there, Mr. Sierra. Just write us a comment. Anyone else want to respond to audience presentation? Okay, thank you. Proposed expenditures over $2,500. Are there any questions for Mike or Carla or anyone? Dr. Terrell, any questions on that? All right. First reading of updated policy 7:200, suspension procedures 7:210, expulsion procedures 7:220, bus conduct 7:230, misconduct by students with disabilities and 7:185, teen dating violence. Would you be doing that, Mr. Cloyd?
I will be providing some comments on that.
Okay.
And this is in regards to the entire Senate Bill 100 package, if it's appropriate at this time. We do have an item on the consent agenda on 7:190, but if you would bear with me, let me sort of read this summary, because this is a significant set of policy changes. It's driven by what the state of Illinois did in terms of the school code. And as the board has discussed at several meetings this year, last fall, the General Assembly passed a bill making significant amendments to the Illinois school code regarding student discipline in Illinois public schools. The bill was commonly known as Senate Bill 100. The major changes in Senate Bill 100 is in the overall philosophy concerning student discipline, and from a relatively punitive system to a more therapeutic model. Over the course of the past year, many of us have gone to presentations concerning Senate Bill 100. The Illinois Association of School Boards, our outside legal counsel, our chief legal officer, and others have been working on draft of amended board policies required by Senate Bill 100. The General Assembly and the governor want school districts to find new ways to deal with student misconduct. The new law de-emphasizes expulsions and out-of-school suspensions as common remedies for student misconduct. These remedies are still permitted but are subject to some new restrictions. School districts must articulate in their decisions why it is necessary for students to be removed from the school population. Before students are suspended or expelled, the school district must make attempts to determine the cause of the student's behavior and try to deal with it first through remedial and restorative services. When these interventions fail, the remedies of out-of-school suspension and expulsion are still available. At our last meeting, we had the first reading of proposed amendments to our board policy 7190. Policy 7190 is on our agenda tonight for adoption. The first and most obvious change is that this policy is being renamed from student discipline to student behavior. This reflects the shift in philosophy to a more diagnostic and therapeutic approach to student misconduct. Hope I'm not interrupting. Tonight we have several other policies for first reading. These policies are 7200 student suspension procedures, 7210 expulsion procedures, 7220 bus conduct, 7230 misconduct by students with disabilities, and 7185 teen dating violence. The titles of these policies are fairly self-explanatory as to their content. And I have a couple of comments on each one of them, and I'll get to that in a minute. At each step in dealing with student discipline matters, there are additional requirements for documentation to memorialize the thinking of school administrators for the action they are taking. In addition, these policies require that while students are out of school while on suspension, that their schoolwork not suffer. The school district is required by Senate Bill 100 to make sure that student is provided with the schoolwork and their ability to advance through the school is not impeded. They are to have the opportunity to obtain full credit for their schoolwork even though they are suspended, and under some circumstances, even after they have been expelled. In reviewing the new model policies, which are the basis for our new policies, we were pleased to find that we already do many of the things that are required by the new law. Our decisions regarding student discipline are well documented. The hearing officers who deal with expulsions hearings on the board's behalf already write thorough reports summarizing their rationale for recommending a given action for a student, and whether the student is found not guilty of the charges or guilty, followed by a recommendation of the board on a disciplinary action. Many of the new features of Senate Bill 100 relate to the social and emotional condition of our students and require that school districts assess and address these important needs, which are often the underlying reason for that a student misbehaves. This requirement dovetails with the formation of our new Office of Social and Emotional Learning, which through Dr. Karat's vision is now becoming a reality in Peoria Public Schools. In specific, I would say that Senate Bill, the implications for our policies on in-school suspensions, mostly it is documentation and notices to parents. Under 210, it is documentation of the reasons for an expulsion. Under 220, under bus conduct, it requires that academic credit must be given for made-up work through missed classes. And in policy 7230, dealing with students with disabilities, it requires compliance with the 2004 Act on Disabilities. There's one other, which is teen dating violence, which is also required and referenced in 7190, and it deals with the implications of that and its impact on children and students in our schools. So with that, I would say that this has been a significant amount of work on the part of the policy team. Ms. Kostick and I are members of the policy committee. We really appreciate the work of Chief Legal Officer Retberg, the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee, the staff and administration who've been involved. And I would offer to you that we've done as much as we can at this point. The next step is to get the administrative procedures in place through the administration. After that, the documentation, the paperwork backup, and the electronic systems to back it up, and then finally the training and execution of these policies in the classroom starting in July. So there you have that, and hopefully if you have any questions, we can respond to them. The additional policies are on first reading tonight, so you have a chance to look at them, and we'll bring them up for final approval at the next meeting.
We appreciate the board's support with this new act.
This is
New mandate.
Unfunded mandate.
another unfunded mandate. I think one of the things that we would note is that in many cases, the documentation increases dramatically. One of those policies alone has 7 additional pages of documentation for one instance. And in some cases, there are 2 or 3 different documents that follow up each policy. So the policies themselves are one thing. The execution of this is another. I don't know how many additional man-years of time this is going to require us to use. I think we're doing a pretty good job, and I think we had to make far fewer changes than many other districts in the state because of these changes in the policies at the state level. Nevertheless, we still have a lot of things to do to document the work we're doing.
Did you have anything addition, Ms. Costa?
No, Mr. Floyd has sent it out.
All right. Report of request under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such. Dr. Karat.
Thank you, Madam President. Since our last board meeting on May 9th, we received 1 new request. This request is still pending. There were 2 pending requests noted on May 9th. These both were filled. We have received 22 requests for the calendar year at a cost of $7,561.39.
Thank you. The consent agenda. Mr. Floyd.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. The consent agenda this evening consists of the following items. Number 1, gifts to the school district. This meeting, $26,825.95, and the year-to-date, $120,176.89. The proposed action is that the following donations be accepted and letters of appreciation sent to the donors. Coffee coupons valued at $24 by Dunkin' Donuts, a gift card valued at $25 by Courtney Westifer, a gift card and Happy Meal toys valued at $25 by Tom and Nadine Clark, cold cups and refreshers valued at $25 by Joe Grant, a gift certificate valued at $39.95 by Brett Beechler of Beechlers, 4 $10 gift cards valued at $40 by Jeff Johnson, ticket vouchers valued at $48 by Kaylee Miller, gift cards valued at $50 by Walmart, bowling passes valued at $56 by Haley Jepson, 4 ticket vouchers valued at $60 by Katie Pogman, 8 $25 gift cards valued at $200 by Hy-Vee, a cash donation valued at $500 by Richard Wares of Salem Lutheran Church, 2 golf club sets with bags valued at $100 by Marcia McCann, a 4-wheel drive manual transmission valued at $1,500 by Mitsubishi Motors to the Woodruff Career Technical Center Auto Body Program, and a 2015 Mitsubishi Outlander valued at $24,133 by Mitsubishi Motors to the WCTC Auto Body Program. Our thanks to all for their contributions. Item number 2, payment of bills. Item number 3, the Human Resources Report. The proposed action is the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, resignation, retirement, or discharge of an employee. Item number 4, payment for travel. Item number 5, student fees. Proposed action that the following fees be set for the 2016-2017 school year. Driver's education behind the wheel, $100. Transportation for ineligible students, $150. Cosmetology, $30. Culinary arts, $30. Hair braiding, $30. Barbering, $30. Number 6, extension of food service contract. The proposed action is that the Sodexo food service management contract be extended 1 additional year for the 2017 school year. The State Board of Education determines the percentage that the food service contract can increase based on an index, which is the Consumer Price Index, CPIU, food away from home. The annual rate for December 2015 is a 2.6% increase. Number 7, approval of amendments to Board Policy 790, student behavior, formerly known as student discipline. Proposed actions: 1, that the Board of Education of the City of Peoria School District 150 approve the adoption of Board Policy 7:190, student behavior, which amends and replaces Board Policy 790, student discipline. 2, that the new policy become effective as of July 1st, 2016. Item number 8, administrator professional development. Proposed action is that the Board of Education approve professional learning consultant contracts for Dr. Sonia Whitaker, $5,000, Dr. Steve Welland, $12,265, and Dr. Tatiana Carter, $500. Dr. Whitaker will focus on cultural competency, Dr. Welland will focus on leadership, teamwork, and communications, and Dr. Carter will focus on SEL strategies and interventions. Each learning experience will have a practical component administrators will use with students and teachers. The professional learning will be for all 63 district administrators. The combined contracts are $17,765 for 5 days of trainings and will be paid for through Title II money. Training will be May 31st, June 6 and 7, and June 10 through 13. And that concludes the consent agenda, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any items that the board member wish to pull for a separate vote? Ms. Wolfmeyer.
I'd like number 3, the Human Resources Report, so that according to the updated nepotism policy, I will be abstaining on that one, and also number 5, student fees.
All but number 3 and 5, may I have, Ms. Jackson, have one as well, Ms. Jackson?
On number 3. The same one.
Okay, so you want to pull that?
Regarding nepotism, I will be abstaining.
Okay, we'll pull that up at the...
Madam President, I would, if there are no other exceptions, I would move the
consent agenda.
Promotion, or the approval of the consent agenda with the exception of items number 3 and 5.
Second.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Is it?
Mr.
Well,
Adler.
before you call the roll, is there any discussion on those items that, other than 3 or 5? Any discussion, questions, or comments? No. Okay, would you call the roll?
Mr. Adler.
Aye.
Mr. Cloyd.
Aye.
Mrs. Costick. Aye. Mrs. Jackson. Aye. Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer.
Aye.
Mrs. Ross.
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, number 3, human resources. May I have a motion?
I would move the approval of item number 3, the Human Resources Report.
Second.
Okay, Okay, discussion. No discussion? Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye. Abstain.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Abstain.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. And item number 5, the student fees. May I have a motion?
I move that we adopt item 5 of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Ms. Wolfmeyer?
I have a problem with, I still have a problem with the behind-the-wheel fee, the increase. I understand why we're asking for it. I appreciate the fact that it's been reduced from what you originally asked for. I just think it could be a real problem for many of our families, and when you compare that to the small amount of money it's going to save, I can't support that, so I'll be voting no on this one.
Other comments or questions on that particular one?
The current fee is $50, right?
$50. And the fee for students that are not part of district is how much?
Same price.
Same price.
Same price? So we're doing, okay.
We had originally recommended 150, and then we had discussion, as Ms. Wolfmeyer
I
said.
thought it was supposed to be more. It's always been a little bit more for students not part of Peoria.
No, it's always the same price.
Always? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Other comments or questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
No.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. And, okay, so.
Deliberation agenda.
Yeah. Deliberation agenda. Yeah, yes. The discipline, suspension review, expulsion. Ms. Jackson, will you be reading that?
Reading. Suspension review, proposed action that the suspension review listed on the report dated May 23rd, 2016 be approved as presented. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. Number 2.
Expulsions, proposed action that the expulsion listed on the report dated May 23rd, 2016 be approved as amended.
Second.
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. Number 11.
Expulsion with the expulsion to be held in abeyance. Proposed action that expulsion with the expulsion held in abeyance listed on report dated May 23rd, 2016 be approved as amended.
Second.
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. Revocation.
Revocation of expulsion held in abeyance. Proposed action that the revocation of expulsion held in abeyance listed on the report dated May 23rd, 2016 be approved as amended.
Second.
Mr. Adler?
Aye.
Mr. Cooley?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mrs. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye. Presentations and suggestions by board members. Are there any presentations or suggestions? Mr. Floyd?
I have a suggestion that came out of a discussion on the policy committee, and that was that some of the training that we are going to be doing for Senate Bill 100 policy changes, we might want to videotape some of those presentations and use them in case there are administrators or other people that did not get a chance to see them, to use that for getting them up to speed, because this is going to take some real training effort. The other question would be, we have a number of policies. There may be some training clips or video that is provided by Illinois Association of School Boards or others that we might even consider posting alongside the policy documents on our website, somewhat like a YouTube video explaining why a policy is what it is. I don't know if they're available or not, but it seems to me there's going to be more and more of that type of communication where the video presentation you can do in 2 or 3 minutes might get you a long way down the road to helping people understand the practical application of these policies, particularly as it regards the administrative procedures and not the policy language itself. So that's a thought.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts or other suggestions? Reports from board committees. Anybody have a report? You had your report.
We have another meeting Thursday, and we have a couple of more issues to try and get in front of the board.
And that is the policy committee?
Policy committee, yes.
Other committees? No. Okay, last board meeting, I had brought some information back from training I'd like to share with you, but what I'm going to do is send each of you the link to the YouTube that I spent a lot of time putting together. And I think you'll enjoy it, and if you have any questions, you give me a call. So, other business, any other business of the board? No? May I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that we adjourn.
Second. All right. Thank you. Yeah.